I want to start with that question is, who is Calissa?
Calissa is an ever-evolving woman of God. That is who Calissa is. Kind of to start things off, I was adopted as a baby.
Yeah, tell us about
that. It's a story. So my biological mother has mental health.
Okay.
So she has paranoid schizophrenia. So I was, given up for adoption and taken by Children's Aid.
Mental health is such an interesting one that my mom's interesting. I don't really ever really talk about it, but she was admitted to a mental health hospital for, I remember, a number of weeks when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. And it was something that was kind of like, it was hushed. It was not something that we talked about openly. It was sort of this like, it had, I feel like, a lot of shame, and it had some stigma attached to it.
So one of my favorite sayings is that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Just don't live there.
Self-care is not a luxury. It's a birthright.
Oh, yeah. It's good, eh?
That's really good. Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Help Me See show, where we are challenging limiting belief systems, telling stories of possibility, and pushing past the familiar. And today I'm really excited. I have a good friend of mine, Calissa Ngozi. But I always want to say France.
Yeah.
But because that's how I have you in my phone. An amazing, I have a long list of bio that I want to quickly feature before we kind of get into everything. But Calissa, for those of you that don't know Calissa, let me just give you a quick snapshot. Calissa is a mental health expert, a professor at Mohawk College, actually taught today, already before coming here, 7-time award-winning international speaker, community advocate, author of The Oxygen Mask Mindset, which I did purchase, by the way, Reclaiming Your Energy in a World That Glorifies Exhaustion, TV radio superstar, mother of twin boys, host at Central Community Church, and an event that we just did recently together, a Niagara Christmas. Am I missing anything else?
Nah, I think we're good.
Okay. I love that. So my wife and I were talking the other day, and she's like, you have to have Calissa on. And I was like, you're right. How have I not had her on this show yet? This girl is living in the land of possibility. You're doing all these amazing things. But I thought, in light of all the things that you're doing, I want to start with a question that really matters to me, which is not just what you do, but who you are. So I want to start with that question is, who is Calissa?
Oh, how much time do we have?
we got a few minutes.
Who is Calissa? Calissa is an ever-evolving woman of God.
Yes.
That is who Calissa is.
Okay.
Calissa is someone who understands the complexity of life, leans in, embraces it, asks for forgiveness, asks for help, and tries to show up for the people and things that matter.
Wow. I love that. Okay, I want to lean in on that for a second. And then I got a lot of questions for you today. So ever evolving. How has all of these, take us maybe back a little bit to your upbringing. How has how have you evolved over all these years into the person you are today?
Yeah, well, it's ever evolving because I understand that, God's purpose for me, has changed through the years, but it's almost been consistent in the messaging of you were put on this earth to help other people that are having a lot of mental health, a lot of concerns with trying to find out who they are. And, you're going to be able to speak to them through your circumstances. Yeah. And, my story is very much from tragedy to triumph, from victim to valor.
Right.
And, part of my healing process beyond therapy is talking about it because you never know the impact that you can have with your story on someone that maybe doesn't want to tell somebody else.
Right.
So, I've often spoken with women and men who have said, Calissa, I had no idea that was what you came from. Yeah. And I don't know why and how you're who you are, which also opens the door to talk about my faith too, which is amazing. Yeah. But, kind of to start things off, I was adopted as a baby.
Yeah. Tell us about
that. It's a story. So my biological mother has mental health. Okay. So she has paranoid schizophrenia. So I was, given up for adoption and taken by Children's Aid. Okay. And I was placed in foster care. Yeah. And then at about 3 months old, my parents were my foster parents. obviously they fell in love with me.
Yeah.
And
Who
right. And they adopted me. But one story that I want to share, which when I do talk about it, it shocks a lot of people, is when my parents took me to the doctor to get me checked out, like that's part of protocol.
Okay.
The doctor looked at my parents and told them, this is going to be a stupid child. You might want to rethink adopting her.
Wow.
So there's a reason for that.
Wow.
Before I got into my parents' care, I was placed with a foster family that did not take care of me adequately. So when my parents got me into their care, my head was turned to one side. I wasn't really interacting.
Yeah.
So I was damaged,
Wow.
right? Because I wasn't being interacted with or anything.
Yeah.
So my mom, who at the time was working in social services, was essentially like, okay, bet. Like, let me change your mind. Let me work with this little girl. Now, just imagine what my life would be like if my parents believed this man and said, maybe we should, try for somebody else.
Yeah.
So that was really the start of my story.
Wow. Do you remember that? Or were you too young at that point?
I was a baby at that point.
Yeah, of course.
No. But I will tell you that I have access to the paperwork and it legitimately says that, this individual may be, and use the R word that we don't like.
Right.
She's going to have deficits, might have a good personality is essentially what it said. Doctors in the 80s, a lot different from now. Now that man would be canceled. But I'm just so thankful to God for placing me in a family that saw beyond the paperwork.
Yeah. That's incredible. I love that. Like, that's such an interesting, what could have been. And I liked how you put it, from victim to valor. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, as much as I love my family, I love my parents, I'm so grateful. There were moments in my childhood where there was struggle.
Yeah.
So not only did my biological mother deal with mental health, but my adopted mother also does.
Okay.
So she deals with clinical depression and she deals with anxiety as well, and a lot of chronic pain issues. So the poor woman has gone through quite a bit. Unfortunately, that did spill into some childhood trauma.
Okay.
And, part of that was watching my parents go through separation, watching my mom get admitted to the psych ward for a short time. There's even moments of sexual abuse from other family members that I experienced.
Yeah, wow.
So, I've been through it.
Yeah. Mental health is such an interesting one that my mom's interesting. I don't really ever really talk about it, but she was admitted to a mental health hospital for, I remember, a number of weeks when I was in high school. And it was something that was kind of like, it was hushed. It was not something that we talked about openly. It was sort of this, like, it had, I feel like, a lot of shame, and it had some stigma attached to it. How much of, I guess, as you think of your own story and your own, your parents and your mom, how much of that stuff have you kind of seen, like, shape you and even change over time, I guess I'm curious about too. Like, I guess, how did that affect you as a young person?
Well, what's really great about my mom is before I got into public speaking and, sharing my very personal and vulnerable story, I asked her for permission.
Okay.
Because she's part of that journey. And I didn't ever want to shine a light on something that would make her feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And one of my core memories over the last few years was my mom saying, baby girl, like, this is just as much yours as it is mine.
Right.
And I'm okay with it. Right. So any speech that I've written or spoken about on stages, I always just double, triple check, because just because I want to be vulnerable doesn't mean that she does. Right. But, the fact that I have her support, means a lot, because she also knows, like I mentioned earlier, it's part of my own healing journey.
Yeah.
And, going through childhood and, teenagehood and all of those pieces, with all those traumas, definitely helped to shape who I am. And it really took me a long time to be okay with that.
Yeah. How much of that with your mom, with mental health, do you feel like drove you into, obviously, what you do today? Like, just helping your mom get through some of that, and even other people that you've been connected to, and your bio mom as well. So, like, I'm always curious, are the things that we go through, how much they shape what we decide to do with our lives and where we focus our energy in helping the world. So I guess, how did that shape you? I guess, how much did that, shape you as somebody who now is a mental health expert, teaches about it? What did that kind of look like for you?
I mean, if anyone was predestined to work in mental health,
Yes.
I mean, it was me. I mean, the circumstances, that I found myself involved with from conception, literally, I really feel that it was God saying, like, listen, you're one of my strongest soldiers here.
Yeah.
I need you to show up for people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help you heal through that process.
Yeah.
And, if it wasn't for God's grace and understanding, then I really would not be where I am.
Yeah.
And, I credit my parents to obviously having me grow up in some form of faith.
Yeah.
A lot of my core memories are youth group. Like I still remember, my first missions trip to Jamaica, doing snow camp at Muskoka Bible College. A lot of those things, college and careers and junior youth and senior youth were so important and integral.
Yeah.
And my parents were not helicopter parents with me.
Right.
So, but I didn't take advantage. So I would go out and I would be gone till 10 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
But they knew I was with youth group or I was with people from church and I was safe. And that really did shape a lot of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk a little bit about mental health. What are we missing?
Oh,
like to me, it seems like we live in a time where we know more than we've ever known. It seems like there's more information, maybe not as much knowledge in terms of like applied information and things like that. But what are we missing in terms of like being really mentally healthy? Because it doesn't seem like we necessarily are as a society.
Every generation, there's some form of stigma when we talk about mental health, right? So we've got our baby boomers, we've got our Gen X, we've got our Zennials, we've got our millennials. Now we've got Gen Zs that are speaking out, and then we're raising Gen Alpha. So, everybody has a different understanding and perception of what mental health is. And when I talk to friends and family members that are in each generation, everybody has a different response. A lot of times what we'll see with like baby boomers and Gen X is, okay, cool, but why don't we just get over it? Right? Like in my day, like nobody talked about it. Okay. And how's that working out for you? Right? Are you emotionally regulated or are you struggling?
Yeah.
With my own kiddos, Gen Alpha, I very much try and have open conversations with them. Listen, you're allowed to be upset. Yep. You're allowed to be angry, mad, glad, sad, all of the things, but let's be appropriate with how we're dealing with it. Right? So you can yell and scream into a pillow. Don't yell at me. Yeah. And you're allowed to be mad, but we need to deal with it. Yep. And, I think Gen Z, our kiddos that are not kiddos, but students that are, in university and college. Yeah. The rise of anxiety and depression that I've seen in the classroom is staggering. It is staggering. But what we're also seeing is Gen Z is starting to take a small amount of accountability and looking for outside resources. So whether it's therapy or if it's religion, to try and deal with how they're feeling. Right.
Do you think that's what's driving some of the resurgence of people going back to church, especially the next gen?
Yep.
Like people going, there are external things that can help me in terms of how I navigate this.
Oh, yeah. Well, in our own church, we're seeing like huge numbers with our next generation,
it's crazy.
Which is mind blowing, but it's because they're showing up. And we also have the surge in online activity. I can go to church online. There's online youth groups and platforms. And, we're seeing a lot more, Christian mega churches and people of influence. There's Christian influencers now that have millions and millions of followers. And, their messaging that they're trying to get across, for the most part, is positive. So these young people are soaking it in and they're wanting more.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I had a thought as you were talking. Well, I guess maybe every gen seems to have a little different idea, like you talked about mental health. What are we talking about when we're talking about mental health? Like, are we talking about the same things? Do we have a different do we have a different idea of what that is?
Oh, we all do.
Like what? Like, are there terms that put us all on the same plane? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So, there's moments in society, which now I'm labeling the Coldplay effect, where moments in society happen and we're all on the same page. Right. And it almost gives you faith in humanity that, okay, maybe we're starting to understand things.
Right.
With mental health, what I find is the more that we talk about it, the more real it becomes for people. And it goes beyond things like, Bell Let's Talk Day or Giving Tuesday or, all of these things. Yeah. With my clients, with my students, with family and friends, one of the things that I often say is, with grief, Grief doesn't necessarily mean the loss of a person.
Yeah.
It could be the loss of an experience, a job, a home,
A dream.
whatever, right? And with grief, what I need from you is not to get over it. I need you to get through it, right? And I think as a society, we need to talk about that piece more.
Right.
And it's not telling someone, just get over it, like whatever.
Right.
Like that person, broke up with you, or this person, whatever.
Yeah.
It's been like, how long has it been now? Okay, but why are you putting a timeline on my mental health and how I deal with things?
Right.
And I think my mental health looks different than your mental health and that person's mental health.
Yeah.
My traumas and my struggles are going to look differently than with you. And I think as a society, becoming more empathetic and understanding is going to just help us propel with the conversation.
Yeah. Seems like it's less of a thing too, less of a thing that you arrive at. Maybe to use that grief analogy, like you don't arrive at now healed and whole. You're a different person. There is a maybe other side, but there's probably a part that you'll always be, healing in some degree, becoming a new version of yourself through grief. So I wonder with mental health, if it's a similar metaphor in that it's not a destination that you kind of arrive at. Now I am healthy, but it's something that you're continually walking through to be mentally healthy. I think that's what I'm kind of getting at is like, what does that look like? And is that different for everybody?
Well, and I think distinguishing the difference between a chemical imbalance, with depression versus situational.
Okay.
So a loss of a relationship is a really good example. That is situational depression, right? And the hope is that you're not going to live there for long. And, going through that grief process, trying to work through it, you may require therapy.
Right.
It may require medication temporarily. Like it depends on who you are as a person and where you're coming from with that. Whereas someone like my mother, that is a chemical imbalance. Like she cannot function unless she has chemical intervention. She needs medication. There are people that do. Whereas there's another type of person that they just need to talk about it, go to therapy, a trusted friend, and just say like, listen, like these thoughts and feelings are going through my mind. I need help with navigating through it. So whether it's leaning on Christian faith, if you are a believer, whether it's leaning on things like cognitive behavior therapy. But again, I just go back to talking about it. And if you understand that, I might have like chemical depression. Right. I need intervention that goes beyond praying or whatever it looks like.
Have you seen, so I'm taking in what you're saying, situational or circumstantial. You've gone through, you're just maybe struggling in your mind as a whole. Maybe there's been a chemical piece that there's actually, as you kind of talk it through, are there some things that you've discovered that are like, hey, this is very helpful as a whole. Like if we all did more of this, it would actually lead to collectively more healthy individuals.
So one of my favorite sayings is that it's okay to not be okay. Just don't live there. Right? So it's that realization that as a culture, all of us are going through something at some point in time, but we don't always have the tips, tricks, and tools to navigate through that. So we're looking to other people, other things, but we have to be careful with that as well. Like, what are you leaning into to help you with whatever you're going through?
Right.
Is it toxic? Or is it helpful?
Right.
And can you distinguish between the two?
Yeah. Have you found there's any issues with putting a identity piece attached to your mental health? Have you do you ever see I guess what I'm trying to ask you is there a negative effect to, we talk about it, but do we sometimes claim it as our identity, and as a result we end up we become victims to it? Is that something in your teaching discovery that you've seen, or is that not really a thing?
I think it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
I think some people do lean into it very heavily, and it can be part of the therapeutic process.
Yeah. But
then sometimes you're so deep in it that you're not actually able to move past it.
Okay.
This is just who I am. Take me or leave me.
Right.
And that's it. Right. But is that really helping you move through that?
Right.
And I would argue, no, it's not, because you become static.
Okay.
You know, if you're someone that, you know, is willing to accept help, you know, advice, you know, and those types of things, then maybe it's something that you can get over and get through.
Right.
Right. To a certain extent.
So identity isn't necessarily something that you're overly worried about as you look at the mental health landscape.
No, I mean, as long as you don't live there.
Right.
Right. So, and then if that's the case, then something's not working for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And to go back to what you said at the beginning, you're ever evolving. And as long as you're growing and evolving, then you don't have to worry about, hey, I battle this, or I have a chemical imbalance, or I'm circumstantially going through it. I'm growing.
But I think also society needs to be gentle with some people in their circumstances, because for someone, you know, that has clinical depression, if they're in bed for 3 days, they literally are doing the best that they can. And sometimes they can't move, and you need to not judge them, but support them. But then for the person trying to support them, there's times when you don't know what that looks like and how to do that. Right. And that's when you need to lean to outside resources to kind of help guide you.
Yeah. I heard a friend the other day talk about how the darker the situation, or the harder the circumstance, the less words I need to use. I need to show up with. I just need to show up. And maybe the lighter it is, I can use some more words, but the darker and the harder it is, I show up with the least amount of words. I'm just present. I really like that. I like that idea of, like, you know, sometimes it's just being there, because that's actually what people need. I like that, how you said that sometimes it's easy to be hard on others for what you think, oh, you should just be able to get over that or figure it out or whatever. But everyone's a little bit different.
Oh, yeah. And like, if I'm going through a situational, you know, moment, you know, something in my own practice, personally, professionally, that I've had to learn and lean in on is that, Calissa, you don't always have to have the answer.
Right.
Right. Sometimes just that quiet space is good enough.
What do you wish people knew about mental health that you've thought a lot about, processed through? You've had a lot of conversations, talked to a lot of individuals, taught about this stuff, had a lot of questions. What do you wish people knew about this stuff that maybe people aren't asking or aren't talking about? Is there anything you kind of feel like, man, I just wish people would know this?
I think for me, it goes back to that saying that I said about, you know, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Because I think there is still that stigma piece. We're heading into 2026 or we're in 2026.
Yeah.
Can we redo that? Yeah. I forgot this is February. We're February. Yeah. I think the fact that we're now in 2026, we need to get it together as a community of people, family, friends, all of those pieces, and just realize that if we talk about mental health, it shouldn't be a burden to other people. You know, we need to be able to receive it. That's in the workplace as well.
Right.
You know, if I need to take a mental health day, that shouldn't be held against me. You know, and people are afraid. They're afraid to talk about it out loud because of the repercussions that could happen.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I want to talk more. I think we'll come back to this again, but I want to talk a little bit about your book, because you wrote an amazing book. I did buy it. I've started it. I have not finished it yet. I have the Audible version, so that's great. Tell me a little bit about what led to this book, The Oxygen Mask Mindset, and a little bit about what it's about for those that maybe want to check it out. And tell us about the journey of, why did you have to write this? Like, what was inside you that said, I must write this book?
Well, what's interesting is I always knew I wanted to be an author, you know, and I was for sure going to write a children's book. That was going to be my number one book. But when I connected with my publisher, it was very much a conversation of, look where you're at right now professionally. Like, you are on this trajectory of greatness. So having a book that kind of relates to that is like really important, and it makes the most sense. Like, you can do your children's book at some point, but I really feel like this is the focus. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I had been toying around with this framework that I created. And so the oxygen mask mindset obviously is about, you know, trying to take care of yourself before you take care of others. Now, we live in a world and a society where we celebrate hustle culture. And if you're not busy, are you doing it right? You know, and it's go, 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 go. And I was so tired. I was so very tired. I'm still tired. and it's funny because I'll have people call me out and be like, Calissa, did you put on your oxygen mask? And I'm like, you know, but it's true. And I need that. The way that I wrote this book was from my own, I self-identify as being neurospicy.
Okay.
So I have ADHD and clinical anxiety. And, I wrote it with the premise of it has to be quick chapters to keep people's attention.
Okay.
We need to get to the point, but I want people to not experience this book as a one and done. I want you to be able to pick it up every time you need it. So whether it's a specific, chapter that's tailored towards your situation, if you need those tips, tricks, and tools, then it's there for you.
Right.
And I have had to pick up my own book or turn it and hear my own voice literally on Audible, reminding me of those things that I need because, burnout is like you're in a huge amount of stress at this point. And I've definitely gone through a lot of periods of that myself. And I've had to lean into the book and say, okay, Calissa, you are now feeling overwhelmed with life because you have so much going on. Stop what you're doing, reflect, restore, and then start again.
Right. As you said that, I was thinking of the plane analogy, obviously, right? Where it's like, please put the mask on yourself before you worry about your kids and everyone else around you. For those that maybe haven't heard the book or maybe are looking to check it out, what are some of the ways that you some tools or tricks that you would say, these are some of the ways that you can do that? You put on the oxygen mask. What does that look like?
So one of the frameworks in the book that I created is called the CARE tool. So that stands for clarity, activity, resilience, and then engagement, right? So it's hitting our mental needs, our social needs, like everything.
Say that again.
And so it's clarity, activity,
okay,
resilience, and engagement. Okay. So the CARE method. And really what it aims to do is give you the tools to lean into dealing with burnout. So are you taking care of yourself physically?
Right.
Are you drinking water? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you, if you're an office desk kind of person, are you standing up and walking around?
Right.
I'm going to die on this hill. There's not one person that can't carve out 10 minutes per day for themselves for self-care.
That's true.
So, self-care is not a luxury, it's a birthright. And a lot of us, especially if you're parents, feel really guilty about that at times, right? And I had to get over that. So I vacation without my children.
Sorry, you just said something that was really, self-care is not a luxury, it's a birthright.
Oh yeah. It's good, eh?
That's really good. Look, you just kind of kept talking and I was like, no. It's not a luxury, it's a birthright.
Yeah, it is. And self-care, when I came up with that, it was really in my mind thinking, self-care doesn't have to cost money. Sometimes it does. But it's just leaning in on the fact that what do I need to do to restart and refresh? Now, for me, this is luxury. But it also works for me. I carry a lot of my stress in my body.
Okay.
So what I typically do is once a week, usually on Fridays, I go for an hour of therapy. So I'm able to work myself out and what I'm going through emotionally and cognitively.
Okay.
And then directly after that, I go for a 90-minute massage because it's working me out physically. So I do this almost every single week because I need it. Like I work in the mental health space. I have my own mental health with ADHD and anxiety. So in order for me to show up for the people and things that matter, then I need to first show up for myself.
Okay. And would that be under which of the four? Is that activity?
Well, actually, it's a little bit of all of it.
All of them. Okay.
It's all of them because the clarity piece, right? Yeah. Like, what are my emotional needs? Yeah. The only one that it doesn't really hit is the social needs, which is engagement.
Got it.
Unless I engage with myself.
Yes. Call a friend.
Yes.
So for me, I find an interesting one is clarity. I find I'm like a deep well sometimes of, what's happening within me. I know what I'm feeling. I know that I am struggling or I know that I'm going through it. But sometimes the clarity on why or what's happening deep within me is hard. So when that's hard, it makes it hard to figure out the next things. But I've been through enough cycles where I do know activity is a big one for me. That triggers positive momentum, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. The third one on R, what was that one again? Resilience.
Yeah.
How do you do that one?
So resilience, again, I've created something called the resilience formula, right? So that is, essentially knowing resilience was the word of 2025, right? Okay. Everybody wants you to be resilient. Right. Okay, cool. But like how? How am I doing that? Yeah. And it's really just embracing the fact that you will never have everything all together at once, right? That's just not how the human spirit or nature works. Yeah. So you need to lean in on the fact that, okay, not everything's going to be perfect in my life, but I'm going to be resilient by understanding that I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to quit. I might need to pivot. I might need to change, my trajectory, how I'm imparting things, how I'm dealing with my relationships, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah.
But really honing in on that resilience piece of, okay, stress can actually be my superpower, right? So, and I think some people forget that because when you think stress, you think negative, right? But no, there is some positivity to stress as well. And that's leaning in on the fact that, okay, so I know that I have this project due or this thing that I'm working on. I'm a little stressed, but it's good stress because I know that once I get to the end, the reward is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's also keeping yourself in check so that it doesn't turn into bad stress.
Yes. Yeah, there's an interesting thought. I think sometimes around stress that you shouldn't have it ever. So it shouldn't be, things are too stressful. But that's actually how a lot of good things are formed, under tension. Right? Like that's how your muscles expand, by stressing them. And then they come back, or contracting or expanding and then contracting. That's a natural progression in everything, your lungs, your muscles, I feel like in the same thing in your capacity.
Yes.
Even as becoming a parent, you're stretched to the max when you were up at 2 a.m. trying to keep these kiddos like from dying.
Yeah.
and then you realize like, oh, I thought I was busy as a young adult and I wasn't. But you've stressed, so to speak, and then you've come back to a new normal. I think there's something about that. That's actually how we become people with higher capacity.
Yeah. And it's funny, you said peace. And, being in 2026, that is my mantra of the year, is really just embracing a peaceful life for myself.
Yeah.
And if anything comes to me that disrupts that, then it's too expensive.
Got it. Let's talk about peace for a second. What does that look like? Obviously, there's a faith component that would drive you and I a little bit on that one, the Prince of Peace.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
That would be a big one. Maybe for those that don't know or don't have a faith perspective, but, are exploring that. What's a healthy version of peace that's like we can pursue and obtain and,
one thing that I left behind last year was being a part of toxic relationships. So this is professional and personal.
Okay.
And it's really taking a look at the people that I'm surrounding myself with.
Yeah.
And are they moving me forward or pulling me back? Yeah. And I had to say goodbye to some people in some circumstances. Yeah. And when I tell you that God really had a part in that, and it's almost me loving them, but from a distance, right? So I can still love you without being a part of you. Right. If that makes sense.
Or they don't get the deepest part of you.
Oh, no. Like you have to kind of shut that down. Yeah. And the amount of peace that I have felt has really changed how I move forward with people. Yeah. I'm really busy. Like I have a lot of stuff and I have a lot of people around me. So it's around understanding that, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we need to stop giving lifetime expectations to seasonal people.
Whoa, that's really good. Say that again.
So people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Okay. And we need to stop giving lifetime expectations to seasonal people.
Seasonal people. Yeah, that's really good. I've been thinking about this actually as well, because I think there's an interesting part for me, full circle on this one, because I feel typically very similar to you in this area, but now I've been actually sort of coming full circle on this one, where there are some things where I would have said, no, I can't have that in my life, that now it's like, just go to the gathering. You don't want to go, but like those people need you. I'm in a healthier space to be at that, to go to the thing, or to go to those people that hurt me, or to be present. I'm in a good space where I want to be a light in that area. I want to, it's interesting because I do see a bit of a pendulum in some ways of like, we're starting to create these very clean, curated, sort of boundaried lives that don't allow in anything that could ruin us. But I think there's also a component of like, I must insert myself in some of those places where there needs to be light brought, there needs to be healing, but it's still not going to be a place where I'm going to allow it to sort of infiltrate my life. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of an overflow maybe, but I don't think you can get there always you have to become healthy first.
Oh,
You need
yeah.
those boundaries first. So I'm in an interesting, like, I'm kind of like, I feel that. And then I'm also like feeling these other need to, like, sometimes I just got to put myself in the place where I don't want to be.
And
So
it's
that's,
hard. It's
yeah.
hard to set boundaries.
Yes.
And especially with people that are used to having so much access to you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're drawing a hard line. And it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, and I find some people prefer you when they can either control you or control the situation.
That's true.
But, one of the things I say in my book is that no is a complete sentence. And you don't have to be a jerk about it, right? But it's kind of like, I no longer have the capacity or the space, to say yes to things that don't serve me.
Yeah. I think of, this we share. So Jesus, I think of his example was actually pretty good in this regard. He had the 1, he had the 3, he had the 12, he had the 72, and then sometimes he had the thousands. And the thousands didn't all get access to the deepest part of Jesus. They get a moment, they had a teaching, they shared in certain gatherings together, but there was like only a few that really got to the deepest part of him. And even those few, he had moments where he did say no, like to Peter, he said, "Get behind me." Like, actually, you don't have any part of what I'm doing right now. You don't understand what I'm actually here to do. So that's an interesting one. Even to those that really do know you, sometimes no is even for them.
Well, for me too, lately, like this last year, I've really been leaning into God more so than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And, there's this concept of it's hard to hear what God is saying to you if you've already decided what you want him to say.
Yes.
Right? So it's leaning into the, like, just be quiet. Like, why do you think you have it all figured out?
Right.
You don't.
Yeah.
You're hoping that this is what God wants, but you actually have to take a moment, reflect, and listen.
Yeah.
And I tell you, once I started doing that, the blessings have been overflowing in so many different aspects of my life.
Do you feel like peace that you talked about for this year, do you feel like that's a direct correlation to some of that realization for you?
Absolutely.
And what that peace is like, to be in a state of peace is like, I think there's a lifting that takes place. Obviously, when we talk about the Prince of Peace, there's this idea that we share the weight. It's no longer just us trying to prove or carry it on our own. There's something about that place that I think we're really hungry for. And it's not escapism either. I think that was the other thing I was thinking about as you're talking. Sometimes we think peace is like we just numb ourselves, or we just scroll for 4 hours on TikTok. And we think like, okay, no, it's not actually making us more peaceful or in a state of peace. And I think that's where I keep coming back to, I know deep within me, my deepest conviction is that peace is found in a person, like Jesus for me, right? Like that's a significant part of my personal life and something that I want for others too, that, and the result of that is a peaceful state of being. But it comes from that being, like the greater being who's Jesus. So I think there's something about that that's like, maybe some of the resurgence of faith too, that people are going, yeah, there's something I have to unlock in not just my mind or my emotion or, but in my spirit. Like there's actually a spiritual place that I can find that,
Yeah. And I think, this world is a mess. We are a mess right now. And I think every generation is trying to lean in to try to find a solution. And that's where we're also finding a lot more gens coming to religion and trying to seek peace, hope, understanding, a solution. It's tough, but I also have so much hope in that. So much hope that, okay, the kids and the students that are going to take care of us when we're in the retirement home, they're starting to get it together. Yeah,
it's true. Okay, the last thing I want to lean in with you a bit is identity. So obviously you've done all these things. You're becoming, just this incredible person you have an amazing amount of accolades. But I also feel like as you're talking, there's a part of you that is shifting from, you don't care as much about all the titles and all the accomplishments. You care a little bit more about who you're becoming as a person. Maybe lean into that for a second, because I feel like there's something that is beneath the surface there that is growing in you that I think I felt the same in terms of like me 20s, 30s was heavy on accomplishment, doing, becoming all the things that I thought were. But the more that I've accomplished, the less I value those accomplishments, which is an interesting thing. I care more about who I'm becoming. So I feel like that's similar for you, but I could be assuming something there. But
so every year I have a word.
Okay.
And the word is describing where I'm at.
Yeah.
So for 2025, my word was momentum.
Right.
Because I was on a track, I still am, on a lot of wonderful things.
Yes.
My word for this year, for 2026, is intention. And it's a really big word because it can mean a million different things.
Yeah.
For me, intention means I'm intentionally pouring into myself so that my children understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm being intentional about it.
Yeah.
I'm raising young men who are going to be 13 soon, which is very, very scary. Pray for me, and I'm just thinking, what kind of world am I creating for them? Do I have a legacy? Do I have, them set up for success? And what does that look like?
Yeah.
So that's what I've been working towards, because for me to find my own identity has been a lifelong process. Early on, we talked about ever evolving.
Yes.
Right. That's going to be something that Calissa is for the rest of my days.
Right. Which you're passing on to your boys.
100%. And it's important. And I think a lot of people forget, your children are watching you all the time.
Yeah.
Even in those small moments, they remember things. Last year, my kiddos were able to come with me to an event where there was 3,000 people and they were able to see their mom on stage. And one of the best parts of that was I saw the video they took of it on their cell phone afterwards. And one of my kids was like, "That's my mama."
Yeah.
And
I saw this video.
Oh my
I love that
gosh. It was awesome. And I just was like, oh, they really do care.
Right.
They really are watching.
Yes.
Right. And, that really put a drive in me of keep doing what you're doing, keep showing up, keep putting God first. And identity comes and identity changes.
Yeah.
But don't put your identity in anything, anyone besides God. Right. And then the rewards will just keep coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. I think I see, we navigate lots of people in our church context here as another part of my job, but I see so many conversations and it's funny because they all have this similar thread, which is what am I supposed to do? And especially for young people, what am I, what should I pursue and what decision should I make and what school do I need to go to and what job and what person and how quick and like how, like there's so much. And I feel like the screaming question behind it is, who am I? It's like, who am I and where am I going? And there's so much stock in what I do is who I am. And that's such an interesting thing because at the end of the day, you think at the end of your life, you can't really do much. At the end of your life, you're just kind of there. So what is a legacy? Is it based on just being able to perform? Is it only this sweet spot that you somehow can kind of only hit in the middle of your life? Or is it like becoming more than that and intentional, about who I'm becoming. And then the question for me on that is like, well, then what are the things that really matter as it relates to being intentional about who I'm becoming?
No, that's all really good. And what's really funny about that is one of the courses I teach is developmental psychology.
Yeah.
And today I spoke and lectured to my students about end of life and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And we literally talked about what does retirement planning, legacy building look like? And what we're finding is a lot of the older generation, it's almost 50-50 as I'm really happy with how I led my life, the legacy I'm leaving behind. But then there's also a huge portion that's like, I didn't do everything that I thought I was going to do. I feel, did I waste my life? Did I have missed opportunities?
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad because like if you're in your 70s and your 80s and you're not happy, do I have time? Right? Because I'm closer to death than I am life, at that point. And I think what I said to the students was, you know what? It's never too late to change your trajectory as long as you do it now, right? Don't wait.
Yeah.
And also, we're expecting the young kids to have it all figured out. Okay, cool. You want a 17-year-old to know what they want to do with their life? I'm 41 years old and I'm still figuring it out.
And it's probably going to change again.
Oh, yeah. Because what's the word? You can ever evolve.
Yes, that's
right.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think those are the important questions that I saw somebody, there's a video I saw the other day, and it was like somebody asking, if there was one question you could ask as you're dying, what would be the question? And I think they asked chat or something. They're like, what's the most important question when you die? If you could only ask one more question. And it was like, well, it's like, would it be like, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, no, it wouldn't be what you do because you can't change anything that you did at that point. You've already done all that you could do. Would the question be like, where am I going? And Chad was like, no, it wouldn't be where you're going because wherever you're going is where you're already going. You can't change that. The only question really to ask is, did I see it? And the question, the idea behind that was, did I see what was most important? Did I see life for what it was? Did I see love? Did I experience it? Did I see what was in front of me? And I think there's something about living in a state of like seeing things for what they are, for what they really are, and not just getting caught up in the doing and the achieving and the striving, but becoming somebody who is like loved and loving others. I think honestly, that's what it comes down to for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
It's like to be loved, to be known, and to love others. Like that's like, I think me as a 80, 90-year-old sitting in a rocking chair, like that's probably the best version of myself is, did I love and did I receive it? Because I think that's the stuff that really fuels all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and I think society is like, oh, I'll get to it like next year. I'll get to it, when I'm older. But you need to live with purpose and intention, and happiness is something that you can create within yourself.
Yeah.
And I think some people lose that.
Yeah.
But with us, with our faith,
yes.
It adds that extra layer as well, because we're leaning into God.
Well, I think that's the legacy piece for me too, because I have an interesting like pendulum on legacy. I think in some ways your legacy is how well you loved, and that's the most beautiful part of it. The other part of it is you're a breath across billions of people on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be forgotten very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I have these two extremes of like, my legacy really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But also to those around me, what my legacy is did I love them? Did they experience that from me? And did I receive it from them? And I keep coming back to that, like to be beloved, like that word beloved. That's something I've just been ruminating on, like to be loved by God and to be loved by others, and then vice versa. I think that's the deep things that are really simple that I coming full circle to that. I think that's the stuff that really matters.
Yeah. And I think also trying to live a life without regret.
Yeah.
Right. And trying to, whether that means righting wrongs for you, whether it means changing your path or your trajectory, I think that's really huge. And we're seeing that with older people of like, oh my gosh, like, do I need to apologize to someone?
Right.
Do I need to do this or do that?
Yeah.
Talking about apologies.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have really needed to lean into is accepting apologies that I never receive. Right? Because the apology is really tough, really tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have relationships that don't give you that amount of closure that you need, right? So I need to receive it without actually hearing it.
Interesting. Is that real? Is that like you feel it from them, but they haven't said it? Is that just I'm forgiving them?
Forgiveness is a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. And it's something I've struggled with, right? Because if I felt that you've done me wrong, then it takes me a beat before I can really get over it. Yeah. And that's something that I, work on. But I also understand that there are people that are coming from really dark places, and that's why maybe they acted a certain type of way. Yep. So I need to receive that and grant forgiveness, even if there's no conversation, so that I can move forward as a woman of God, right? I can't be holding grudges because that's not good for me. It's not good for my relationship with God. And it'll affect and block my blessings.
Yeah. I think so much of forgiveness is so much like I think sometimes it had to do something with me, but it actually is often just their own things they're going through. They did the best they could with the tools they've been given or the upbringing that they had. And so I've started to extend a lot more like grace for the fact that somebody hurt me and I could still talk to them. Because I used to be much the same path. I'm like, no, I'm done. I cancel that person. I don't want to see them. I don't want to talk to them. But I'm becoming a version of myself that's like, I can still talk to that person and it's okay. Because it's not about me. It's about something that I think God could do in them. And I just need to be willing to, be open.
Amen.
Okay. Last thing before we go, I want to just talk about the future. What are you excited about? The sandbox of your heart, mind, soul. Is there anything that you have like you're just percolating on, excited about, ideas for the future, in light of all the things, peace, intentionality, ever evolving. What are you thinking about as it relates to the future?
I have so much going on.
Yes.
and I don't know if that's going to stop anytime soon, but it's a good thing, right? There's a lot of things, as you said, percolating, in my personal and professional life. And I'm really excited for this season. God has a lot of things in the works. Yeah. Some of them I can't mention.
Okay.
But what I can say is I have a trip planned for 2027.
Okay.
So next year, and I'm bringing my kids to Africa. So, I culturally am Nigerian.
Okay.
And, I want to go back to the motherland and I want to experience that with my kids.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a new chapter for me because it's like having that connection to, in essence, my people, my culture, and I'm really excited about that. And I think that's going to light a fire under me. Other things I have going on is just living with more intention, like my book is doing super well, doing a lot more media surrounding it. I'm just living with purpose. Cool. And I'm really excited.
Yeah. And so people want to get your book.
Yes, they can head on over to Indigo. Yes. They can head over to Amazon. Yep. It's also available Kindle, Audible, all the places, and in select stores across Canada.
It's called The Oxygen Mask Mindset.
Yes, Reclaiming Your Energy in a World That Glorifies Exhaustion by Calissa Ngozi.
I love that. And I said your name terribly, so you say it much better than I do. Ngozi. That's great. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. And I know that I think people are going to be really encouraged by just your drive, your energy, your intentionality, the person you're becoming. I love that you're continuing to become and to grow and expand in terms of that stressor like we talked about. And actually what it's going to do for your boys, I think is actually really special to actually to go back to your roots and to go like, hey, look at who we're becoming, that we can never stop growing and we can always continue to evolve into the best version of ourselves. So I know people are going to be encouraged. And if you haven't picked up the book, make sure you pick that up. And if you have any questions, you could also email us at hello@helpmec.ca. And let's keep pushing past limiting belief systems and live in the land of possibility. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's great. Hey, thanks so much for watching. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, just hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, or you can follow me on Instagram at jdrieger. And if you have a question, or if there's someone you would like to be featured on the show, shoot me an email at hello@helpmec.ca. And together, let's keep challenging limiting belief systems, choosing to see possibility, and pushing past the familiar. This is the Help Me See Show. Right, and then we'll launch right into it. So God, just thank you for Calissa today. And I just thank you so much, God, for all the amazing things happening in her life. On maybe, on the outside, there's a lot that's going really well. I also pray for the things that are happening inside of her. I pray that in the crazy and doing all the amazing things, I pray that the deep parts of Calissa, God, would continue to grow as well. That the unseen things, the things that are, just forming, God, in her character, in her mind, the mindsets that are always kind of ebbing and flowing. God, I pray that through this season that you continue to keep her in a space where she just feels whole and healthy and on the inside and the outside. So I just thank you so much for her today, God, as you've done such an amazing thing in her life, and her story, God, is such a really, it's just cool. God, all the amazing things that have developed and are just so inspiring, God, from her story. So I just pray today that, for somebody who's watching, God, that it would be something that inspires, that something that sparks an idea for them, that they could see God in themselves, something that's maybe a blockage or something that's been blocking a possible reality for them. And so I just pray, God, today for that. I pray that people would be inspired to see something more for their lives. So I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.